and thank you so much for being here. My name's Faye and I run Faywild Photography and Faywild Education. Today's video is going to be talking about my course Align. We are currently 2 out of 3 weeks in, and this video is an interview that was taken from the Zoom at the end of module 1. So the course Align is broken down into 3 main sections. It's for photographers. If you are getting bookings but maybe not enough bookings and you're worried about numbers for next year, maybe you are getting lots of bookings but they're not at sustainable rates, you're worried about burning out, maybe you are charging enough but there's still something not quite right with the weddings that you're attracting and you're turning up and it just feels very misaligned. There's so many different ways that this course could help you, but the long and short of it is, if there's something that's causing some sort of discontent, this course is going to help you figure out what it is and give you the practical steps to getting into a happier. So module 1 is like a holistic deep dive into your why, your driving force, your motivations, like what you want your life to look like and feel like, because your day-to-day life and your business are so intrinsically linked. Along the course, there's a group chat on WhatsApp which people can ask questions in. You can ask as much or as little as you want. I actually encourage people to mute it so that you can just dip into it as and when it's convenient for you and you're not feeling overwhelmed with like more group chat notifications to respond to. At the end of each module as well, there's a Zoom. So the first part of the Zoom is just to catch up for anybody that's able to make it from the cohort. And then the second part of the Zoom, we have a special guest. So the first guest, we started off with a massive bang, is Mia from Mia Sylvia. So Mia is a fabric artist. You've probably seen her work flying around all over Instagram and Pinterest, like it's so iconic and you recognise her work immediately. Mia is someone that I'm very lucky to call a real life friend. We met through work, actually when I was a stationer back in the day, and I knew that guests were going to get so much from listening to her, speaking to her, getting to ask her questions. She's someone that shows up really authentically and she shares work from the heart, but she's also someone that has managed to maintain her personality and her work and everything that she does, even though she's doing incredible like large scale weddings, which I just think is so amazing. So yeah, module 1 is all about sort of like authenticity, finding your voice, figuring out your unique place in the market. To be the first guest, like it was a dream come true to get to speak to her and to just share her knowledge with the guests. So I'm not going to share the full interview. I'm going to share some sneak peeks from our conversation. If you enjoy this and you feel like you would love to be a part of Align, I would love to hear from you. I'll pop the links below on how you can find out more when the next cohort launches. It will be coming soon. One last chance to make a massive difference to your business before wedding season fully begins. Thanks. So me and Mia go way back. We actually worked together for the first time in like 2020, I think, just after COVID, when I was a stationer. And back then it was like hand-dyed fabric napkins and stuff. It was like nowhere near the scale of what you are doing now, which is crazy to think. But yeah, say hi, like introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, everybody. I'm the owner, the founder of Mia Sylvia, which is my name, and I am a textile artist and I design large-scale installations all over the world. So yeah, that's me, and that's what I currently do in the world of weddings. Yeah.
So the reason why I invited Mia is because module 1 of Align is all about really finding what makes you tick as an artist. Me and Mia really connected over our background. We won't go too into it, but basically we both grew up working class mining communities, and coming into the wedding industry as a working class person is quite tricky. You can almost feel like your face doesn't fit, and that makes it so much harder to show up because you're in these insanely like lavish environments, especially now that we're moving into luxury weddings as well. And it can feel quite hard to show up authentically. But Mia is probably the person that does it best out of everyone else that I know. I just wanted to have you on to talk about finding your voice, because you have transitioned so much from when we first started to what you're doing now. So I'm going to start off with quite a big question, which is what's like the best thing that you've done in your career so far, or like a real career defining moment? Hard to say.
That's such a big question. I think it's hard to pinpoint one thing. There's like, it's incremental things that happen over time. Like you're never sort of like really an overnight sort of success, especially when you've been, grinding. And for me, I started my business in my first year of uni. So it really has been like a gradual process since like 2016. I do have like little moments that I think, I wouldn't say that like the biggest things that have happened, but they're things that I properly like remember throughout my journey. Like one of them, I did a craft fair when I like first started my business, and I was there for like 8 hours and I sold one postcard for 20p. And I had like the best day ever. And it was so nice because being in that environment, the thing that I learned the most was talking to people about myself and my art. And I had a teacher at university, and he's like my guru. Like there's so many things he said which have like stuck through me like up until how where I am now. And like what he used to say is no one's going to know who you are unless you tell them. I have really, really stuck by that, like constantly throughout my work, like always just singing, praising, like shouting from the rooftops who I am and what I do. When I was thinking of like proper career defining moments, like my first destination job was probably a really big one for me. I was actually teaching in Armenia, and that was probably about 6 years ago. So that really showed me that I could actually be an artist outside of the UK, and that I could like open up my environment, which opened up my mind, which, it taught me all different cultural ways of working. I think one which a lot of people would probably say if I asked them now that know who I am now online, not who I was like way, way back when. I think a lot of people would say that workshop that me and Faye did, where I did that cake table. That was mental actually, because
You literally broke the internet.
I know, like I'd been showing up online consistently and I was just loving the work I was producing. And I knew that I was good. Like I knew that my art was, really special and that I had something to share with people. But for some reason, like it just wasn't sticking and like it wasn't getting traction. And then I did that cake table at one of the workshops. And I remember standing back being like, I know this sounds really arrogant, but that's going to go viral.
I was going to say, just before we go into the next bit, is that I think a lot of people within the group, they're not quite there yet with like finding this confidence because they're still not 100% being true to what they love and what they love to shoot. I
Mhm.
think there is still an element of quite a few of you doing things because you feel like you should do it rather than it's coming from the heart. So, have you got any practical advice on how to like tap into that inner soul work that you have found over the last couple of years?
I think when you're in a creative space and there's a lot of people that are being creative around you, like say you're building your portfolio, you're working on shoots, you're second shooting for people, and you're in a space where there are a lot of opinions and a lot of strong personalities. The thing that I have learned throughout being in those environments is that I think everybody has it, like a little voice in your head where you think, that would look quite nice if her dress was like moved to one side, or maybe if she moved her head in this angle, but you don't say it, do you? You just sort of think it and you're like, oh, no, I'll leave it. And then someone else might say it in the room and you're like, yes, I thought that was a good idea. So I think I would just recommend that those little moments where you think about doing something that feels right, you'll feel it in your body. Like you'll have a little voice that will say, oh, let's try that. I would just recommend actioning it. Like even if you are in a busy environment with a lot of people, like maybe just take a moment to be like, oh, can I just have a little shuffle and give it a go? Because yeah, that will help. Like the more you start listening to your intuition, that will help with your creativity.
That. The next thing that I was going to ask you was about overcoming. So, in one sense, imposter syndrome, I think, for creatives is the thing that most of us have to overcome. But are there any other things that you've struggled with that you can give like practical advice when things are really hard? How do you pull yourself out of it and keep showing up?
Gosh, yeah, it's hard, isn't it, being a business owner? I think some of the hardest things, which is just a constant, is juggling running a business and having your personal life, which goes on in the background. Like you're always having to juggle the two. I think the thing that really helps me come out of moments where I am sort of struggling is always leaning on my pack. Like I've got a beautiful circle of women around me, and I'm aware that not everybody has that. And if you don't, then like to find that, there's community, like even this call now, like this is a community of people that you can now lean on for advice. It's being able to talk it out with people. I think if you get so stuck in your head, that's just, yeah, it's just going to be a detriment to you. Like,
In terms of your driving force, your motivation, you've done so much now, but you still seem to be coming out of it, always being the first to try this and try that. What is this driving force that's pushing you to keep moving forward?
it's probably my upbringing, definitely. I think I haven't got anyone else to lean back on. It's all me, like everything that I build. So I think that's definitely a massive driving force. And now having a team of, incredibly talented women and artists,
How
like
many
that is
people do
also
you have with you now?
about 13 of us now.
Oh my God, girl, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, two that are full time, but yeah, they're massive driving force. I think being able to show up and be like a role model for people in the creative industry is definitely something that motivates me. I think it's an industry that can have a bit of a bad rep, especially, for artists and, women and, all different people that might have a bit more of a struggle if you're trying to come into an industry that people are told that you can't make any money. I think a lot of people think that that's not true. And like, it is like there's so much abundance in the creative industry, like so much. So yeah, I think, yeah, things that motivate me are the people around me, my friends, family, and money.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm really open talking about money, but I think it's that working class background in me because if this fails, no one's paying my mortgage, no one's feeding my child. Like if I don't bring home the bacon, especially now, like because we've got no childcare around us, my husband has actually just gone part-time to be practically a stay-at-home dad. He'll only be working 5 days a month or something. It's like quite a big change. That's a driving force because you don't have those, and I think actually a lot of people in the group are in a similar position with lots of different obstacles. Does anyone have any questions for Mia on anything that we've touched on before we carry on?
Go on with the table because I'm interested from the story. Did you have some sort of idea in your head before Faye said go do something in that corner, or did you literally just come up with it on the spot?
A bit of both, really. I had like a vague idea of like the shape that I wanted to create. When I have like an idea in my head, I am quite good at actualizing it into reality. So that definitely is a skill that I can work with. So if I have an idea and then I'm like, right, it's then figuring out how do I then make the fabric move in the way that the picture in my brain has to look, if that makes sense.
Something that will set you apart from other people within the industry is your interests outside of this job. Like I'm really influenced by travel content creators, cinema, music videos. Like The Weeknd has just brought out this new album and Lana Del Rey's voice on it should be a cry. It's just insane. You feel like you're literally going to heaven listening to it. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, the dress that I would wear to like strut around listening to this song. And sometimes the inspiration that you get doesn't have to make sense to anyone else but you. But if you then go and run with it, you end up creating something amazing that no one else could do because it was from such a deep part of your brain. I know that's a bit woo.
No, I love that. I think there's such a pressure as well for everyone to create something that's never been seen before. And sometimes you can just like go with a classic and just make it classically beautiful. Like, a lot of people look at my work and they think, wow, like I've never seen this before. And I'm very aware that I'm not the first person to hang fabric up. Like it's been going on for centuries, and I'm just having a bit of a fun, playful twist on it, which has got more of a fine art approach to it. But you can look back at some of my work that I've done and see how it relates to, some really old, like modern, some like really old, like Baroque, like homes with like, satin curtains. And I think there is just so much pressure in the wedding industry to do something new and something fresh when maybe sometimes it is worth just looking back. Like the wheel doesn't always need to be reinvented.
How do you achieve consistency when you're constantly working with different people with different backgrounds?
I think it might be like the fabric choices. I think they have a really big impact on people knowing that it's my work. Something I find quite funny, which no one actually really knows, is the main fabric that I use. The reason I use it is one, because when my mum was in her 20s, that's the fabric she used to decorate her home because it was the cheapest. And when I went to uni, it was the cheapest fabric that I could buy in the shop. And I've made a luxury brand out of the cheapest fabric that I could use.
That's
So I think it's that fabric as well. That fabric has a magic quality to it. And I think it's got a bit of the raw grittiness of like who I am. And I think that's probably what makes it stand out a bit.
I absolutely there's a lot to be said for not blaming your tools and not needing the newest camera.
No matter what kind of kit you have, if you're not like growing or learning, then yeah, so true.
What is the funnest thing that you've done? Obviously, we know about the paper clips. Like you've done some really mental stuff. Like in your head, when you think about, oh, I had loads of fun that day, what was it that you were creating?
I don't know why, but the one that comes to my head was probably the most stressful job we've ever had because it was so windy. Like it was actually like chaos. Like everything we asked to be provided wasn't provided. It was like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like one of my team members smashed a chandelier 5 minutes before the wedding was about to start. Like it was just chaos. But I don't know why, when you mentioned that, it was just hilarious. Like, because it was just so wind, like it's out of our control. It was just windy, and the wind just made everyone go a bit wappy. That's what just, yeah, that was just a really funny booking because you just can't write it. Like, there's so many ones that go beautiful and perfect, and they are lovely, and I love those bookings. But it's those really tough ones where you're like, oh, you know what? I've actually had a lot of lessons. Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's like you get through it, even when it's the worst day ever. I've had some days like that where I think, oh my God, this day is really hard, but you can't go into work and moan. You just have to dig deep and like get on with it. But then when you get through it, you're like, it really wasn't that bad actually. Like, even though you thought it was at the time, it's never
Oh
as
no, yeah. Like I'll share the pictures and people are like, wow, it looks amazing. They have no idea, like the blood, sweat, and tears.
I love that. But I think you probably also got through it because you mentioned earlier, like you've got such a good gang of people around you. It's really hard, I know, and I've gone through this with, I've got some of my most trusted second tutors in this group, and I've been through a lot of people to get my team that now are my like ride or dies at weddings. Have you got any practical advice for finding not your people and your friends, but your work colleagues? Because there's a very different
Mhm.
vibe going on when you need people to be at work working hard.
Totally. Yeah, I've had a lot of lessons. I've had to fire quite a few people, which is
I can't imagine you firing someone. Well, I can actually, but I also can't at the same
it's
time.
it's an interesting one, yeah, when you have to proper put that business hat on. I think finding people, like we've been doing a lot of interviews recently, actually, and the more interviews we do, the more we start figuring out what questions are really key for us. And one that we've put in, which we never did before, was how are you with travel? Like, I don't know why, we just never thought of asking people that, but
Destination weddings are like a bloody marathon. That's why, but people have got
yeah.
no idea how hard they are.
Yeah, even not destination, like around the UK, like, a few people we interviewed, they were like, no, sorry, I've like never left the UK or haven't really traveled much out of my hometown. Somebody asked me if we do weddings in an interview.
Oh my God.
I know, I was like, all right.
Did they find you to like ask that question? That's insane.
It might have been nerves. But yeah, I would say, yeah, when trying to find people, it's thinking about the qualities that, like, there's qualities that you have as a creative and as a business person, but then, like, also, what are you lacking? Like, really put the magnifying glass on things that you could have assistance with, that you could find other people that have got those strengths in. There's so many things in the company that I didn't plan on doing because I like being a textile artist. So being able to outsource people that can do things that aren't necessarily textile art or like in I don't know what that could be as from a photographer's point of view. I think with stuff like that as well, contracts are really good. Like we have freelancer contracts that will say different things in them, like if someone's working with us, like if they have to if they want to share it online, it has to be approved by us. Like they can't like tell people like our trade secrets on like how we set things up or how we rig things. And it could be sort of the same with, photographers as well and how you work on the day. I
It's
think as well like treating people like with that sort of mutual respect, like knowing that they are like where you've been as well. Like if I will always give my team like opportunity to play and like to have their own opinions, or if they say, oh, well, what would this look like? If we're not under a time crunch, I always giving them space to give that a go because I might learn something in that process and go, oh, you know what, that actually does look really good. Or sometimes in my mind, I'm like, it's not going to work, but I let them do it and then they figure out that it didn't work. So it's like you can really sort of like help each other as well. And then when you're in that stage of like giving the advice or mentoring them, there's more respect. So they're not gonna, well, hopefully like step on your feet or, start taking over your clients. Like it's just
yeah.
shady.
I guess I know that it's knowing that even though you've got experience, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the same for them. I mean, I found through mentoring, I can teach somebody everything that I know, but it doesn't mean that they're going to apply it the same way or even get the same results. Like that's the beauty of what we do. It's so creative. You can give people the same ingredients, but they fly in two completely separate directions, which is quite nice. Have you got any secret like little things going on that you can give us a little teaser into?
This year's going to be really transformative. In all honesty, I've actually been feeling it for a little while that I need to pivot slightly. And to me, that does not look like weddings. And although I
Exclusive,
absolutely adore
exclusive.
it, I know, I love it. Like I love working in the industry of love. Like I don't think that will ever go, but obviously never say never. But something that I'm really sort of turning towards now is more exhibition work, like going into more like art gallery spaces and potentially doing some staging work for some festivals this year and some shows that are going to be happening. But yeah, I think it just kind of feels like a natural progression. I've got a lot of goals of like where I want to be and kind of to reinvent what I could be known as an artist. So like, being in the wedding industry, I definitely feel like I've made my mark and I will continue to do so, but I kind of want to spread further afield into like TV and film and exhibitions.
Gonna see June 3 is gonna come out and she's just gonna be there in the background, like flying.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I want to be more of a personality in the public eye. I just want to be more visually available, if that makes sense, like verbally. I think for a while my page has been like a bit of a like luxury, but a bit of a mystery. Like it's always been very beautiful and a bit of an escapism. And now that I've started showing myself on there more, I think it's coming back down to the ground a bit, and it's actually opening up more opportunities with people.
You do still throw in like the odd drum and bass reel every now and again. It's still there in the
It's
background.
still there.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah, oh, I love that. Yeah. And one thing that I would say is that when I was teaching, like this is back in the day with like high school students, one thing that I always used to say was don't pick a job, just do what you enjoy in the moment, and then it'll take you down a path that you feel good about. And if you change your mind and you want to go down a different direction, you can. Like no one's saying it's not like our parents that had to do the same job for 30, 40 years. Like the best thing about being a millennial is that we get to change our minds and like try new things, and that's totally okay as well.
Yeah, I think being open to change is really important. I think for me as well, I like to keep life spicy. If I was just doing the same thing over and over, and I think as well, because a lot of my art is now being like replicated all over the world, it kind of sometimes makes me want to just yeah, do something a bit more different as well and start just like keep on inspiring people to try new things.
I totally get that. I mean, I think as well, that's why I've taken a bit of a break from the workshops because even when I'm not consuming as much workshop content and when I do see things that are even similar to the stuff that we've got planned, I mean, the Norwood workshop, I replanned it in like 8 days and it was so stressful to replan it that close to the workshop. But I thought it's an inspiration workshop. I don't want to bring something out that's already on the internet. And it's quite exhausting when you're constantly trying to be ahead. You kind of just want to step into your own lane and do something that no one else is doing. So almost like as it gets more saturated, you're like, okay, I've had my fun. I'm now going over here and I'm going to do my thing over there. Watch them all chase you across to like the sets and stuff. It's going to be quite interesting. Big transition. Interestingly, the next question was, how do you ignore copycats and stay in your own
I
lane?
know when I read that question, I was like, "Whoa, how honest do I do I?" Yeah, I'm still navigating what that feels like. It's really hard. It's like that, you have to practice the art of letting go. It was never yours to begin with. You can't hold on to an idea, and it's really hard as an artist as well because the service that I provide, can't be trademarked. It's something that people can try in their own way. And I love that. Like, I love people having their own spin on it. I think that's why I've been a bit more mindful with like showing my process online now, because I've been seeing it being replicated, but maybe not at the standard that I think couples really deserve. So I
Yeah.
want to show people a little bit more of that insight. So that's one thing that has helped get my power back is to actually show people how to create. Something that also just protects my energy is muting accounts. I've done that quite a bit. I feel proud that I've like steered the ship of this in the industry. So because of that, I know that I'm always leading with like integrity and authenticity with like who I am. Like even me talking about the reasons why I've used that fabric. People that are replicating, my art, they won't have that storyline. They don't
They're
have that
spending a bloody
ethos.
fortune. They're probably spending like 3 times as much a yard, and you're
I
doing.
know. Something that kind of helped at the beginning, but it's kind of been taken away from me now as well, which is a little bit hurtful, is I was really, really cautious when describing my work with the terminology I wanted to use. Like I would never use the word draping. It was always fine art installations, talking about myself as an artist. I was always very clear in like making my voice very, very apparent. Like throughout my posts online, you could probably look back like 5 years ago and I would say similar sentences. And I think that is something that's really helped me keep the momentum of like knowing who I am, what I do, like showing up for myself, like and my authenticity. So yeah, that's definitely been something. I think words are really powerful. So that's why I've held on to words as well with how to describe what I do.
We were going to talk about this actually a bit more in one of the later modules about how our brand visuals and our brand identity extends way past our photos. It's the captions that we use. And there's actually a section where I'm going through Instagram captions and I'm highlighting words that I've used and I'm explaining why. And
Mm.
sometimes I think people don't realize just how much goes into showing up online. And if you are just putting a photo out there because you think it's pretty and you're not really like understanding where it's coming from, that's why you're not standing out because you're just with all these people that are just doing it to
Yeah.
post. They're not doing it to like connect. They're doing it to be out there, and it's not going to have the same impact, is it?
No, not at all. But everyone knows what a caption looks like that makes you scroll past. You won't even go past the first few words, will you? You're like, okay, keep going.
The biggest lesson that I learned in terms of connecting with couples and the right couples is that emotion was at the center of it. When you start, you're so obsessed with, beautiful dresses and pretty couples and walking up and down shots and laughing at the camera. And as you get more into it, you really connect with like the feeling, the way that the light hits the flowers. And like, we don't know why different things get an emotional reaction out of us. But once you realize what you really connect with, it's easier for you to follow suit and just tap into that emotion. You're not trying to play it cool. You're not trying to write a caption just to follow a trend. You're talking about a moment that deeply touched you between a bride and her granddad, or it's the things that touch you are going to touch other people. And I think showing up like that and being really honest and candid, that's how you meet your people. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. People are so nosy as well. Like everyone wants to know what's going on. So if
Yeah.
you can like share a bit of an insight of like what's happened on that day or what your thoughts or feelings were, like people lap it up.
Yeah.
Everyone loves to know what's going on.
Yeah, I love that. In terms of like creating from this, like I think you're really good at tapping into this stuff. A lot of people keep things quite safe, good at bearing your soul to the internet and being like, no, actually, I made this from deep inside, like here it is. Was that always in you, that inner confidence to like share those bits, or is it something that you've really nurtured to be able to do now?
It's definitely always been there for quite a while. Like even throughout uni, I had some people that were on my course that would make comments about like, oh my God, your captions are so long and cringy. Like, why are you writing so much? And I was getting like 5 likes on a post. I'm like, because I'm enjoying it. To me, I love poetry. I love English language. That's something that to me is also part of my art. To be able to use language to explain or to narrate what's quite poetic or beautiful about what we've like done in like a photo shoot or something. Yeah, it's definitely something that I've always practiced. And I think with Instagram, like specifically, the key thing for me that's helped sort of show up and like grow my page is like being there consistently, like every day, which can sound like really terrifying. But like at least posting like I have such a strict structure with how I show up. Like Monday to Friday, I post at 1:30 every day. And then on days that I genuinely can't be bothered to post, I will at least do stories.
Love that. One thing that I was going to say that you do really well is you really subtly show off who you are and your personality by your stories. You just post still images with no caption whatsoever, just like a little mysterious insight into your life. What made you start doing that? Like, how well received is it? Would you recommend that other people do it? Because I always love watching those stories, so I'm guessing other people do as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I When I was in college, I did the National Art Diploma. So in the first year, you do painting, sculpture, woodwork, photography, textiles, digital media, and then in the second year, you choose the ones that you enjoyed the most and then you focus on those. And for me, it was textiles and photography. Like I've always really loved photography. It's always been like a passion of mine. And like for me, it's like a hobby that, if I'm out and about, like I'll always be, snapping away at things that inspire me or like little pockets of magic in the mundane day-to-day life that are really beautiful. They're received really well. Like, yeah, I get a lot of messages and compliments and it sparks conversations with people as well. And I think it subtly communicates my personality and who I am without having to like bear all. Like I don't want to show absolutely every part of me online. Like I do like to be quite selective about what I put out there. And for me, that's like a really nice happy medium.
It's nice because you feel like you're sharing, but it's not super.
Yeah, like you can go through like old archives of things, like something that you did last year if you went on holiday somewhere. Like no one needs to know it's not happening. I'm like, that was months ago. Like I'm in bed. And I never share my stories live time either. Like I don't judge people that do, but for me, I normally just like batch cook them for when I'm ready to sort of do that. Or I'll enjoy a weekend with like friends and family and then I'll share it after.
It's a security thing though as well. Same with weddings. Like one thing that I always say to second shooters is don't share that you've been at a wedding with me until we're in the car on the way home, just from a security point of view. But you can share it the next day, like tag the photos. You don't even have to put a caption. You can just share the pictures of where you've been. And people, it's easy to consume and people are like, oh wow, she's doing this. And even those little pictures without a caption, they're still connecting with your couples. Just love to see what you've been up to.
Instagram loves a story as well because it goes to like people that aren't on your feed as well. Like if I don't post for a couple of days and upload a story, I'll notice that I can get an influx of followers. So it's like Instagram just loves it.
Yeah, and if you don't post at all and like wait for so say you posted 23 hours ago and you've got a picture to post, wait until your story is timed out and then post after, when you've got no circle around your Instagram photo. Because if you wait and then you post and then you just do a single post, you'll get like 3 times the views that you normally get. If you enjoyed this chat, please do consider liking and subscribing. There's loads more where that came from coming over the next few weeks. And also, if you are interested in joining us for the next cohort of the course, which is opening soon, you can find all the details below. Just a reminder, the aim of this course is that it is as flexible as possible to work around you, especially as we go into spring and weddings are starting. It's really important to me that people have got time to work on their business around all their other responsibilities. All of the tasks within the workbooks, I'm going to put a little sneak peek up now. They're all very pragmatic, broken down into short, actionable chunks. You've also got contents at the start of each module so you can see the topics. If you have got limited time, you can prioritise which ones to do first before moving on to the other ones. Thank you so much for being here. See you soon.